You're listening to a Brawl Network production. This is a podcast for the best fans in the NFL.
Are you in the mafia?
Am I in the what?
It's time for a Bills Brawl podcast.
Second down and 7. Kelly with the time. Touchdown! Bill Brooks.
Allen. Deep shot. Touchdown! On the line to Stephon Diggs.
And Thurman breaking tackles at the 22. Inside the 10. Touchdown Buffalo.
And welcome to another edition of the Bills Brawl. I'm your host, Mike Lindsley. Get us on Twitter at Mike L Sports, at Bills Brawl, and at Network Brawl. That's across all the platforms. Let's talk with you, Bills Mafia, right now. Bring in one of the best in the business. He is a Buffalo Bills insider and reporter for New York Upstate, and also is the co-host, along with Matt Perino, of the amazing podcast called Shout, the Buffalo Football Podcast. Make sure you go download and subscribe to that all over the major platforms where podcasts are found. It's my good buddy Ryan Talbot. You can get him on Twitter as well, at Ryan Talbot Bills. Ryan, welcome aboard, bud.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
What do you think the Bills got out of minicamp?
Well, I think they got the normal aspect of team building. I think that they got a lot of veterans back in-house that were not there for the OTAs, so it was good to see Starling Latulolay, first and foremost, who we've heard a lot about in the OTA period where he was not there. We saw the training video, so having him show up was big. We got to see Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison come back, and many other familiar faces as well. But it's just good for the team building aspect of it, because at OTAs, great. You're getting more reps to Greg Rousseau, and you're giving more reps to Boogie Basham. But at the same time, you want those veterans to be there, to be present, to kind of coach up those players, be an additional coach to these young guys that you've invested draft picks in. AJ Epinez as well, being a second-round pick 1 year ago, another guy that will benefit from having those veterans around him. So in that regard, I think it really benefited the Bills.
Do you think that this defensive line is going in with a little chip on the shoulder this year because of last year with, just hearing over and over and over again, couldn't get to Mahomes. They're chasing Mahomes. They go out and get 2 defensive ends in the draft for that reason. And I'm not saying the Chiefs are the only team in the AFC, but do you think they're going in with a little, hey, let's go prove some people wrong here?
Oh, absolutely. And I think Eric Washington's going in with a chip on his shoulder as well. The Bills brought him up over to be their defensive line coach, and obviously with Brandon Dean and Sean McDermott from their days at Carolina. There was a period of about 6 years where no defensive line had more sacks in the NFL than Eric Washington's D-line in Carolina. I want to say it was 2011 to 2017 before he became defensive coordinator there. So he has this reputation, and last year, well, you didn't see the results. The Bills struggled to get after the quarterback. Now, mind you, COVID-19, there weren't these OTAs, these mini camps in person. Everything was done virtually for the most part. So he didn't really get to work with the players as I'm sure he would like to. So this year, having the ability to work with the young guys, and not just the young guys like Ed Oliver, who's still very young, don't get me wrong, but he's entering a make-or-break year here in year 3. Getting to work with Ed Oliver, getting to say, listen, we've seen what you can do at this 3-tech position. Here's where I think you can get better. Here's some techniques that I think you can improve upon. Greg Rousseau has already been soaking up a lot of the knowledge that Washington brings to the table. Boogie Basham, Epinez, Effie Obata, who they brought over in free agency. Then you have the veterans, Hughes and Addison. And then you even have Harrison Phillips coming back for his second year after that serious injury, where I think you're going to see more of the Harrison Phillips that we saw pre-injury this year. It takes some time to get back from those ACLs and those serious lower body injuries. So I think the entire defensive line is going to have a chip on their shoulder.
This whole NFLPA, they've agreed to updated COVID-19 protocols, obviously, and it kind of looks like 2 different lives almost in the league, right, Ryan? I mean, players who receive the vaccine will have little to no restrictions on and off the field, and those who are not fully vaccinated, they'll be limited, and they'll be kind of ordered and told what to do. Cole Beasley was very outspoken with this topic. What's next in this line here? What on this topic? What's next, do you think, for players and the NFL?
Well, the not fully vaccinated versus fully vaccinated list, it is for training camp in the preseason, so I'm sure it can be altered, modified come regular season. Maybe the NFL is just trying to be very, very careful at this point of the year in terms of training camp in the preseason, but you're right. It's a matter of it's two different worlds out there. So if you're not fully vaccinated, you can still test it every single day. You have to wear your mask throughout the facility. You can't eat with anyone. You can't be in the weight room if there's more than 15 people in there. I think the big one was no social media or marketing sponsorship activities. A lot of players can make additional money doing those sponsorships and marketing. So I think they're really trying to do their best to get players to get this vaccine in terms of, listen, you have very few restrictions if you get this done, not just in terms of being a football player, but outside of that lifestyle as well. You take marketing opportunities, this, that, and the other. So it's just one of those things where I know there's a lot of players, and not just with the Bills, not just Cole Beasley, that they're still not sure of it. And, it seems, I'm sure, brought in medical experts. They have someone right on their roster in Buffalo, and Tommy Sweeney, who had a heart issue due to having COVID-19, and he could tell his story. So there's certainly, I'm sure, a lot of people pushing for them to get the vaccine, but some of these players just probably are not comfortable doing that until and I don't know what the until is, but, maybe if they miss some time in some key games or something like that, maybe that'll be their wake-up call. But I can't really sit here and say that there is a right or wrong answer for those players, because every player has their own individual reason for either doing it or not doing it. And from afar, you just kind of have to respect it and hope that it does not cost that player, that team down the road when 17-game season, every game matters. And if you're missing your quarterback, your wide receiver, your defensive end, whatever the position, a starter, you're going to go into a game or two hurting because that player won't be able to play.
Ryan Talbot with us here, the Bills writer for New York Upstate, an insider for the team as well. He also co-hosts the Shout Buffalo football podcast with Matt Perino. Make sure you download and subscribe to that pod where podcasts are found on your smartphone device. Emmanuel Sanders into this offense, what does he bring?
Well, I think he brings what John Brown was supposed to bring and what John Brown did bring in 2019. Injuries kind of hampered him in terms of what he could do last year. Sanders is a savvy veteran. He can play inside, he can play outside. He adds a little bit of speed. He adds a little bit of yards after the catch in terms of what he can do with the ball in his hands. He was still productive last year, despite not being a major necessarily focal point where he was in New Orleans. And obviously, the quarterback situation there wasn't ideal with Breeze's shoulder and with Taysom Hill getting opportunities, Jameis Winston, whatever the case may be. So he's going to come in here, and he's going to help take that offense to the next level, because you already have Stephon Diggs, who's one of the best in the game. You have Cole Beasley, one of the best, if not the best slot receiver in the game. Gabriel Davis, who was outstanding as a rookie. So right there, you have three outstanding wide receivers. You add an Emmanuel Sanders to the mix to really frustrate opposing defenses, because some teams might have two really good cornerbacks, but to have three, to have four, to have guys that can cover every one of your weapons, and then you throw in tight ends and the backs that might be able to catch out of the backfield, it's going to be very difficult for opposing defenses, and Emmanuel Sanders obviously adds to that.
How's the running back room shake out? I mean, they obviously have a lot of options. I'm really intrigued by this group, Ryan. Considering Moss coming back from the injury, Singletary with something to prove after the drop against KC and kind of an up-and-down year. You bring in Matt Breida. I'm really intrigued by this group. Are you, and how does it play out in terms of depth chart?
Yeah, we talked about the defensive linemen having a chip on their shoulder. I think the running backs are going to have that same chip on their shoulders, too, because leading up to the draft, all the talk, a lot of the mock drafts had the Bills taking either Najee Harris or Travis Etienne, and both were off the board by the time the Bills picked at 30, so who knows what would have happened if one of them would have been there, but the Bills didn't get either of those backs. They didn't go for Devontae Williams. They didn't draft running back at all. And now you have these backs that come back hungry. Zach Moss looked like he was kind of taking over that running back one position before he went down with that serious injury. And we'll see how far he progresses if he's ready for training camp. And if he is, then he has a chance to really stake out that role again. Singletary as a rookie was great as that, the 1B to Frank Gore, where he led the league or tied for the league lead in yards per carry. He can do that. He doesn't have that breakaway speed. He can make you miss. He's added a lot of muscle onto his frame without adding a lot of weight, so I'm interested to see how that plays into his performance and how he can take on hits maybe and kind of bounce off of them now. That'll be interesting. I am a big fan of Antonio Williams, undrafted free agent running back from 1 year ago that was bounced on and off the practice squad, finally given an opportunity in week 17, and he ran all over the Miami Dolphins, had 2 touchdowns in that game, 1 receiving, 1 rushing. He was this former 4-star running back. I want to say he was at Ohio State first, and he transferred to North Carolina. But he was highly recruited, and he's just one of those guys that never maybe got the opportunities that he thought he would in college. And in the NFL, he took advantage of the one opportunity he's had thus far. You still have Matt Breida, who they brought in for that extra speed option, someone that can catch the ball in the backfield. And then there's the fan favorite Christian Wade as well, who, if he's going to make the roster, I almost feel like it has to be this year. He's 30 years old. I know he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear in terms of football, but he did play rugby throughout much of his early career. So if he's going to stick on this roster, it almost has to be this year if he's going to stake out a role.
Ryan, give me a breakout player on offense and a breakout player on defense for this team.
Absolutely. Offensively, I'm going to go with Dawson Knox. And I know that there's a lot of Bills fans that are still hoping that a Zach Ertz trade takes place, or that Jacob Hollister picks up right where he left off with Josh Allen from their Wyoming days and almost takes over that tight end 1 role. But Knox has everything you look for in terms of a mismatch at the tight end position. He has the speed. He has the athleticism to really make guys, turn guys around, get past them, move down the field. And we've seen that. We've seen bits and pieces of what he can do. We've seen him adjust to balls and show great body control. We've seen him break away from defenders and get downfield in his rookie year when Josh Allen hit him right at the goal line against the Patriots in the second game right before halftime. We've seen those flashes, but then we've seen the drops and the painful drops. He had one last year against him where he broke free from his defender, was wide open in the back of the end zone, let it hit off his hands, and it's frustrating. And he worked with a vision specialist this offseason. He has this little ping pong machine now that he's working with on his own that he's going to be able to take with him to training camp, have with him in Buffalo throughout the season to work on that. I just feel like he has that breakout potential on offense to really be a factor and be that mismatch that the Bills want at the tight end position. It's a make or break year for him. There's no other way of saying it. He's an outlier in terms of what Brandon Beane does. Brandon Beane drafts guys generally based on their production in college. And Dawson Knox didn't have much college production. He was in an Ole Miss offense that really targeted their wide receivers, and they had such a talented group, you couldn't really blame them for doing so. But you saw the talent, you saw the testing scores that he had at the combine, and you thought, boy, if we can develop this guy and bring him along, he'd be a superstar. So I think that he will be a standout breakout player on offense. Defense, I'll go with Dane Jackson. Dane Jackson is not a Dawson Knox in terms of the athleticism and the testing numbers. He's not a guy that's going to blow you away with his athleticism, but he's just right time, right place. He knows where he's supposed to be. Last year, he had the interception against the Jets. He was lined up one-on-one against DK Metcalf when one of the Bills' quarterbacks went down with an injury. And of course, Seattle throws right to DK Metcalf. First play, what does he do? He wraps him up at the ankles as soon as he catches the ball for no gain, maybe even a loss of a yard. One-on-one against DeAndre Hopkins, he gets a pass breakup in the end zone. So no moment was too big for him last year. There wasn't any of those moments where, boy, he looks like a rookie. He looks like a 7th-round rookie at that. He looked like he belonged last year. And I think year 2, knowing the playbook even better, being in more of an NFL conditioning, because these college athletes are in great shape, don't get me wrong, but there's still a difference between being in college football shape and NFL football shape. And I think that he's going to be where they want him to be. I think he is going to finally be the guy that pushes Levi Wallace out of that starting spot and takes over that role opposite Trey White.
Wow, I like those picks a lot. Ryan, you wrote, I want to say about 3 weeks ago or so, a really fun, I thought it was a hilarious story of a guy by the name of Tom Wayne. He was a father of the bride and diehard Bills fan. He welcomed his new son-in-law to the family, a Jets fan, in a very unique, wild way. Can you, for people who might have missed this story, can you enlighten my listeners to this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I came across this on social media, and I found the bride on social media, and I talked to him, and we had a nice long phone conversation. Great guy.
Yeah.
He said he and his daughter figured that just a few weeks before the wedding, we have to do something to jab her soon-to-be husband because he was a Jets fan. And he said, what about the father-daughter dance? We can do a slow dance to start, get all those photo ops out of the way, because everyone wants a nice photo of the father and daughter dancing together. He goes, well, we can break into the shout song. And the daughter was all for it, and they shared the video on social media. The husband, was a good sport about it. He didn't necessarily do the shout or sing the shout song, but he was a good sport about it. And he mentioned that Trevor, the groom, tried to get them back later in the night by starting a Jets chant with some of the other Jets fans there, but there was too many Bills fans, and they droned it out with more of the shout song, and it sounds like a nice little rivalry within that family here for the next, for the foreseeable future, because those two teams will always be in the same division here.
By the way, in closing, what world are we living in, man? The Bills last year in the Final Four, one win away from the Super Bowl, and our beloved Bonnies, as we're both graduates of St. Bonaventure, they're going in next year with probably the most expectations the program has had, maybe in 4 decades, or maybe the most in program history. And I just read the piece on The Athletic that, they were the number one mid-major program to watch, and all these SI and CBS and ESPN, it's top 15, top 20 in the way too early rankings. They're out of conference schedule. They're booking some major games. Bonnies and Bills, where are we living, man?
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm glad to be living there.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too. Yeah.
For the Bonnies, real quick, it's so tough to recruit to Olean, New York, Allegheny, New York, St. Bonaventure, New York, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's that surrounding area. There's not a ton to do here compared to some of these other programs and what they have. And that just really speaks to what Coach Schmidt and the rest of the coaching staff has been able to do ever since his tenure began, because he has found some real diamonds in the rough. He has found some guys that said, listen, if you love basketball, come here. Our gym looks the same as any other gym in the country, and that's where you should be more than anything else. And he's been able to win people over. And you look at the starting five that they have this season. You look at the depth and the bench that they're going to have. And I know that Coach Schmidt has a tendency not to use his bench, but I almost feel like this year he's going to almost be forced to, just because there's so much talent there. And that's going to be a good thing. That's going to be great for Kyle Lofton and Oshun and everyone else, just because then they're going to be fresh in those later games, and they're going to be fresh in the tournament. In that tournament game, they just could not hit any shots really against LSU, and then second half, LSU's defense really did take over. I thought first half, Bonnies had a lot of really good looks. They just couldn't hit anything. Yep. And you have to wonder about tired legs, and it's the regular season, then the A-10 tournament. It's a lot of basketball. It's a lot of minutes on those legs, so I'm hoping that they can get a lot of those reserves mixed in this year. But, yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be a top 25 program entering the season. It's going to be up to them to live up to those expectations, but the talent is absolutely there. And as for the Bills, a lot of fans were kind of dejected after that championship game, and rightfully so. You're one game away from the Super Bowl. But when you really go back and you look at it, you say, okay, Stephon Diggs played with a torn oblique. Cole Beasley played with a broken leg. Gabriel Davis was a game-time decision and played with an ankle injury that he most realistically should not have been playing with. Your top 3 receivers were nowhere near 100%, and that's probably why your offense wasn't really churning along. You're having some issues. And then you have John Brown let a ball bounce right off him for an interception when the Bills kind of had some life later in that game. Little things like that added up late in the season. So, obviously, health, you can never depend on that. You never know how healthy a team's going to be. The Bills have had some really good luck there. But if that wide receiving core can be healthy and there can be a rematch in the playoffs in the championship game this upcoming season, I think the Bills could knock off the Chiefs. It just really goes to show you that they really gutted things out because they wanted to do everything in their power to help this team get to the Super Bowl.
You know what's incredible, though? On your note with the Bonnies, with the, hey, it's hard to recruit to Olean Allegheny area, etc. I'm glad you threw in St. Bonaventure, New York, by the way, because that's the actual address when you have to, when you get to school with people sending you letters and whatever. I mean, at least when I was there, that's how old I am. You can use that, and I agree with you, but by the same token, I almost kind of like it because, like the Bills, there's a little analogy there too. I mean, Buffalo compared to Nashville, Buffalo compared to New York, Buffalo compared to Chicago, Bonaventure compared to St. Joe's Temple in Philly. Whatever you want to use for the comparison, it allows guys when they're there because of the place, the structure, the weather, to continue to focus harder on their jobs. And I actually like that. There's more there, like there are less distractions.
Yeah, I agree completely. And listen, when you're winning, it's a lot easier to bring those players to these programs too. And when you start to see the Bonnies and these final fives and final threes, and there's some bigger programs in the mix, and then they end up choosing the Bonnies. I mean, that is just a testament to where this program is, where Coach Schmidt has it.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's not going to be around forever. I know that he's probably going to wrap up the coaching career in the next 5 to 7 years, I would guess. So it's going to be really important that they have someone either waiting in the wings that he has on his coaching staff, or that they get another good hire in, because it all starts with the coaching and the recruiting. And I got to say, Coach Schmidt has been unbelievable in that regard.
He really has been. New York Upstate, Buffalo Bills insider, writer Ryan Talbot, also co-hosting the Shout Buffalo Football podcast with Matt Perino. Make sure you go download that on your smartphone device. On Twitter, at Ryan Talbot Bills. Ryan, appreciate you, buddy. Continued success. Keep up the amazing work, okay?
Hey, thanks again.
You know something, Bills Mafia? The defense this year is going to have a huge chip on the shoulder. I mean, this is a team that has a lot to prove, that heard all year last year. 1 week to the next, to the next, to the next. Can't get to the quarterback. What happened to the Bills defense? The pass rush allows the quarterback and others to kind of expose the linebackers and expose the secondary and all the other stuff. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a situation where at Oliver, Star Latulele, these guys are going to, and even a veteran like Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison, the newcomers are going to learn quick what's going on, with the Bills and the culture and the expectations and all that sort of thing. They're going to learn from the guys right then and there. And everything that you hear, Boogie Basham and Greg Rousseau, I mean, listen, Brandon Beane drafts, Ryan said it, college production, but the other part is high character guys who are committed to doing things the way the Bills want. And so far, so good. But they're going to all have a lot of, they're going to all have something to prove on defense. I mean, the offense is going to, I think, just be expected to stay where they were. Are there people who think that the offense is going to be better? Sure. I think they have the potential to be better. Again, if you stay healthy, obviously everything goes through Josh Allen, right? I mean, that's number one. But Ryan brought up some great points. I mean, against Kansas City, Stephon Diggs was hurt. I mean, that's all there is to it, right? I mean, the oblique was really screwed up. Cole Beasley hobbling around on that broken leg. Gabe Davis barely was given the go, and did nothing in the game. The offense is adding Emmanuel Sanders. They add Matt Breida. You have Devin Singletary and Zach Moss in the backfield. We talked about those guys. I don't know if Matt Breida is going to come in and give them more than what they had last year at running back. I don't know if those three are going to provide more as a whole than last year. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. I think Diggs has an opportunity to be what he was last year. I think Beasley, same thing. Again, both if healthy. Gabe Davis can be better. Emmanuel Sanders is going to add something to it as well. But I think if they all play basically up to their potential, just the expectation of Bills Mafia, I think, and hit me on Twitter at Mike L Sports if you think something different, but I think that the fans, if you get the exact same offense, if they play up to last year's standard, if they just stay where they are, the Bills are going to outscore a ton of teams. The Bills are going to win a bunch of games. The key is going to be, the defense and limiting one drive here, one drive there. And that's up to the Harrison Phillipses and the Ed Olivers and the Star Latules. Remember, Star sat out last year with the coronavirus situation. It's going to be up to Jerry Hughes. It's going to be up to the newcomers. It's going to be up to all these guys. And, I think they're going to go in just really, 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 really pissed off this season. Like, hey, A.J. Epinesa, Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, to name more guys who, and Epinesa trying to get to the quarterback, kind of as that edge guy, but, Edmonds and Milano, getting to the quarterback and disrupting the middle and stopping the run and all that sort of stuff. All these guys on defense, I think they're going to be ready to go. I think they're going to have a major chip. And if the Bills can get 1-2 extra plays a game from the D, get off the field an extra third down, those things week to week really, really add up. They really do. And I need a breakthrough year from, probably Ed Oliver, I would say. The Bills, I think, need somebody on the line to really jump forward. And, I don't know. I mean, Jerry Hughes has kind of solidified his career in Buffalo at this point, right? I mean, obviously, he wants a Super Bowl. He's been a long tenured Bill, etc. The Super Bowl would obviously do not just wonders for him. It would change the world. It would change everything forever with this franchise. But he, as far as he goes as a Bills player, impact, longevity, production, he's pretty much set. You have, by the way, other guys like F.A. Obata, who they picked up, who, they might not even make the team at the end of the day. But, you wonder if like a Mario Addison, has this ridiculous year in 2020. Let's say he comes out and just delivers like 8.5 sacks, right? How is that going to affect his contract? The Bills, I thought, coulda, shoulda cut him already to save some money. It would have been obviously at the right time so that they could have maximized it. But, they end up hanging on to him, which is, again, it's another Bills Bean McDermott trait. But, Addison has like a really special year. Then, you're like, okay, well, he reached his ceiling, so now we're good with him. We're done with him. Now we move on. Plug and play right away. Give, Greg Russo or Basham, depending on how they do, that role. So it's gonna be fascinating to watch. You just wonder, if these guys can produce, if they can take that next step. Ed Oliver is a great example. If he takes that next jump, how's that going to affect the Bills long term with signing him? And you've got other contracts. You got to worry about the Allen deal coming up. So there's a lot on the table. There's a lot to chew with this defense, man. And I think that they are ticked, and I think they want to get after it. I think they're sick and tired of hearing about what they didn't do last year, and I can't wait to see what they provide. The secondary is going to be fine for the most part. Dane Jackson, interesting pick as a breakout player by Ryan Talbot, a guy who will probably go to head-to-head with Levi Wallace, for the opposite side corner job from Trey White. Dane Jackson I like his game. I do. He's got really good hands, well coached. He can body you despite being only 5'11", 180. I like his game a lot. The Bills are counting on guys, again, they have kept with guys, they've stuck with guys, Taron Johnson, Dawson Knox, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, a year in, 2 years, 3 years, Ed Oliver, they've stuck with guys. And most of them have, most of it's paid off. Just look at the production. Look at what Taron Johnson did in the playoffs with that big-time 100-plus yard return. Look what he did against the Pittsburgh Steelers before the half. they've stuck with guys, and it's worked. So we'll see what happens here. But I think the defensive line specifically is the group not only with the most to prove, not only with the biggest chip on the shoulder, but could arguably be, the biggest difference maker for a specific team in the NFL this year if the Bills are to get over the hump and even beyond where they did last year. I'm Mike Lindsley. This is the Bills Brawl. Hit me on Twitter at Mike L Sports, at Bills Brawl, at Network Brawl. And of course, thanks to New York Upstate Buffalo Bills insider Ryan Talbot for coming on this show. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.